the St. John Council Finance Committee to order. And item number 2 on the agenda, we have minutes from February 28th. I'll take a motion for the minutes from February 28th. Her worship and Councillor Radwin, thank you. Any questions on the minutes? Seeing none on the motion, all in favor, aye, or raise your hand. Contrary-minded, carried. Item number 3 is an approval of the agenda. Circulated before, motion approval of the agenda or worship. Councillor Norton, all in favor signify with aye, raise your hand. Carried. Item number 4, disclosures of conflict of interest, if any. Seeing none, item number 5 is the consent agenda. 4 items there. I would ask for, if anybody, there is staff here to answer any questions if you have any questions on them. If not, I'll ask for a motion to approve those 4 items. Your worship, making the motion?
Yeah, 5-1 to 5-4.
Thank you. Councillor Radwin, second. Any questions or comments? Okay, on the consent agenda, all in favor signify by aye, raising your hand. Contrary-minded, carried. Takes us to item number 6, which is modernizing St. John's asset and maintenance management system. And Samir Yamin is on the line to take us through that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Your Worship, Councillor. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present to you the asset management system. Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
I can, loud and clear. Loud
and clear. Excellent. Good. So ready to go. Join me for this presentation. We have Bill Neal, which is he's the corporate asset manager coordinator. And also I have Mike Benson here, who is a DCS consultant, and Mike has been with us for the last few years, has been helping us move forward with our asset management program. So I'm just gonna start sharing my presentation here, if you don't mind. Bear with me for a second. Thank you. Second, it's downloading now. Mr. Chairman, can you see it?
Yes, we can see it.
Thank you very much. Okay. So in this presentation, I just want to start talking about, give you some background information and the motivation why we need asset management system. Then I'm going to jump into the process and the strategy we use to procure an asset management system and how we're going to implement it and maintain it. And after that, lastly, I'm going to give you an overview about the new asset management system, which is CityWorks, and what are the benefits, overview of the implementation plan, and finally, what are the risks. Any project, there's always risk. So I just go do some background information to refresh everyone on the call here. Late 2017, the city started its journey to establish an asset management program across the organization, and just want to take an opportunity to applaud Mr. Kevin Fudge for taking this initiative and trust me on that. The objective always of the asset management is to improve the city's ability to make informed and evidence-based decisions for all municipal assets. In 2018 and subsequently in 2021, Council adopted an asset management policy, which provided the ELT team here with clear direction, with objective and principle to implement an asset management program. In response, the ELT identify the strategy and practices to help us move with the implementation of an asset management program. As a result, a roadmap was developed by the staff in cooperation with the consultant to identify the activity as well as the resources required to implement an asset management program. We identify 4 streams. I'm not going to talk about each stream right now. I just want to mention stream 3, which is the data management. In this stream, and data management has called to improve our data inventory as well as implement a centralized asset management system. before we proceed with the implementation of an asset management system, we need to understand here what is the current structure or current existence of our asset data. We need to ensure that our asset data is accurate. Otherwise, we won't be able to make an informed decision on this here. So we did a complete review a few years ago, and we did it last year here with the funding from FCM. And we find out that many of our assets across the organization, whether it is road, whether it is water main, whether it is facility, some of them there's too much information, some of them we're missing too much information, others are duplicated or out of date, and some of the asset data is collected in silo using various standard software packaging. And finally, we find out that was difficult for us to track and manage work associated with asset, which prevented us the use of operation information to make any informed decision. In order for us to respond to this finding, in order for us to rectify and address this one here, we develop a multi-phase approach, which phase one is reviewing our existing system and our data to improve it. How can we improve the data quality? So what we did, we went through each asset group across the organization and tried to develop what you call it a standardized data system to help us understand or to help us collect what type of data we need, what the information we need, and how we're going to collect it. And this has helped us to standardize all the type of asset across the organization and help us to move with phase two, which is actually the implementation of the enterprise asset management system across the organization. As you know, in April 29th, at the council meeting in closed session and open session, this council has approved or has awarded phase two, which is the enterprise asset management system, to ASRI, which their system is the CityWorks. Excuse me, sorry about that here. So in order, just to give you some information on the process and the strategy we have used here in order to let you know where we are right now and how we're going to move forward. We start this process late in 2020-21 by establishing an asset management steering committee, and which consists of various representatives from the various departments, IT, finance, public works, St. John Water, facility, and so on. And as well in cooperation with the operation manager, this has helped us to identify what are their desired requirements, what are their system requirements, technical requirements, business requirements, in order for us to achieve the operation requirement as well to manage effectively our infrastructure. So as a result of this here, in step one, we have developed what we call it a system planning and requirement gathering information to help us move forward with the development or RFP, which was issued in March 2022. As a result of this, when we issued the RFP, surprisingly, we received 8 responses from various vendors on different asset management solutions. And all this solution really was excellent. All the proposal was done perfectly. It was a very hard evaluation for us to determine which one was the successful proponent. Throughout this process, operation manager, staff, committee was involved in the process of the evaluation, and they had the opportunity to oversee or review the various demonstration of each system. Finally, in April, I know it took us a while to get to this point, but there was a lot of information available for us, and we want to make sure we successfully get the successful proponent. In April of 2024, RFP was awarded. Currently, now we are in the implementation phase, step 3. I'm going to talk a little bit later overview on the implementation plan. And step 4 is very important for us, is we want to ensure there's this continuous improvement for the asset management, training, operation efficiency, improvement on the process like this. So there will be a lot of continuous improvement in step 4 to ensure we have successful implementation of the asset management system. Just to give you a reason or overview of the CityWorks asset management system. The CityWorks is an asset management system that will significantly improves the organization, ability to manage our infrastructure effectively, and also gives the city staff the tool required to inspect, manage, provide a work order system. One of the leverage of the city work here we have is we planning to leverage the city investment into the Motorola CRM system. This is very important for us here. The integration of such a system with the CRM will allow operation management to seamlessly create and track work orders which are generated from the customer request. In summary, the operation manager or the staff will be able to respond quickly to city work without the need to create another work order. Secondly, about the integration of city work, give us the opportunity to integrate with our existing GIS, where all our asset data will be centralized into GIS, and the city works we can communicate directly and integrate directly into the GIS, where we can update and update, delete or anything of the asset. I'm not going to go through this function, but we have this inspection allow us to create, inspect, generate work order system, monitor the work order, understand how much money or how much maintenance we're doing on each of the asset, create a service request by senior citizen storeroom. It does meet all our requirement for to manage our asset, and hopefully in the future we have the opportunity to add more function when we start talking about decision making and capital planning. Before you go, and one more thing, and also the city work will have the opportunity also to integrate with any ERP in the future. I'm not going to go. The benefit for any system, for any asset management system, especially for this, for the city work, is tremendous. Customer response will be very fast here. Operation efficiency, we will have the opportunity to track our work order, create our work order, monitor the work order on each asset, to help us enough information and decision making tool to help us determine how much money we spend and when we need to replace our asset, how we need to replace it, how much money. So these are very important a tool and benefit for us to implement such system. As well, it will give us the opportunity to create preventive maintenance program on our asset, which is known to be reduce our cost on this. What department will be included here? We all St. John Water will be part of it. All the asset, linear asset, which is water main, sewer main, facilities, and so on, etc. Public works, roads will be part of this asset management program. Sidewalk, etc. Recreation and parks, playground, ball field, parking lot facility. All municipal facility will be part of this asset management program. Implementation plan. We had worked diligently with the consultant, as well as we worked diligently with the vendor, with the proponent to successfully implement an implementation plan here. And we expect the implementation plan, we're looking at between 20 months to 24 months to fully implement the asset management program across the organization. I'm not going to go into detail. There are 6 phases. We start from the project initiation to the deployment to the maintenance, operation and maintenance to the training. Everything will be part of this implementation plan. Additionally, we did develop a resource to identify the resources required per each department, as you can see from this plan, to help us implement successfully an asset management program across the organization. Also, in addition to this here, we have established an internal stakeholder or internal steering committee identify of the various departments to oversee the implementation and the monitoring of the asset management program. As well, many of the operation managers will be included as part of discussion as well as part of the training. As you know, any project has risk here, and this is important to identify the risk here. Insufficient resources to maintain an asset inventory data. I want to keep repeating this message again and again here. We can have the best asset management system, but if we don't have the resources to manage our asset inventory, our asset inventory will become static, therefore irrelevant. So we have identified area where we need to improve it. Some of the area has been addressed currently, and also we expect to other area will be addressing throughout the implementation program, throughout the implementation phase. Secondly, poor buy-in from operation and front line staff. We understand this is a risk. This is an important risk also, and as indicated previously in my slide, that the operation managers, front staff were involved in this process from the beginning when we start defining our system requirement as well our business requirement. They were involved, and we're gonna continue working with the operation and frontline staff to ensure they have the staff, they have the training and the capability to move forward with the new system. Second one, implementation delay due operation manager workload constraint. We understand that many of staff, they have so much competing priority right now. As a result, we have included contingency as part of this implementation plan. We have increased it from 20 to 24 to 25 months to implement. So there's some contingency to help us mitigate this risk here. The fourth one is technical challenge integrating with the existing Motorola CRM. This is very low, as Canada has already retained Motorola as a subcontractor to help build this integration between the CityWork and the CRM. Lastly, technical challenge integrating with future enterprise ERP system. CityWork is one of the most popular enterprise asset management system. Many municipalities using in Canada. Some of them they already using it with their ERP right now. And CityWork Esri has an extensive experience integrating with most of the common ERP system. Lastly, this is in my closing slide here. You know, it is critical for all three categories to work together. Technology, I think we have the right technology, which is our CityWork, to implement an asset management process. We will, as part of this implementation plan, we will develop process and workflow to see how we can integrate with other systems, how can we manage work order, how can we integrate with ERP. This will be part of our process here. Lastly, which is the most important thing, is the people. In order to have a successful asset management system, again, I'm going to repeat it again, the staff, frontline line, operation managers, they need to have buy-in as well as involved into this process very much here, and they need to ensure they take ownership of their asset inventory, and we already have a good response from operation manager, department head on this here. So I think we are moving in the right direction. We are moving in a direction right now, moving from a conventional way to manage our asset right now to a transformation way, which I believe, in my opinion, this will help us to manage effectively our asset as well, give us the opportunity and the data we need to understand where we need to invest more money, more infrastructure, and help us to secure more funding from the various government. Thank you very much. I'm done.
Thanks very much, Mr. Yamin. Turn it over to committee. Are there any questions or comments from committee?
I have a quick comment, Chair.
Go ahead, Your Worship.
I just want to say that I always love the presentations from Samir. There's always a deep dive into everything. I like to get his sense of the project as well, like why he thinks it's a good idea. And I feel like at the end of it, I'm always, when he presents, I'm usually convinced that that's the way to go. And I am with this one too. So it makes sense, and I'll be supporting his recommendation or his option to modernizing St. John's assets and maintaining the management system. It's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Radwin, do you?
Chair, thank you. I do have just a question, Samir, if I can ask. I'm just wondering, just kind of wondering exactly how it will all work together. So you've provided some information for sure, some great details, but I'm just kind of wondering. So, for example, say you have a dump truck at the end of its life. Is there an easy way that staff are basically notified once everything is kind of plugged in? Is there a simple way? Because I mean, you're talking about making sure that you're resourced to be able to oversee all of this. After everything's kind of put in and implemented, is there an easy way that staff are notified of, changes that's happened with different things or what have you?
Yeah, that's a good question, your counselor. Here, just to clarify something for you here is in my slide, the asset management system here will include all the departments. The only thing we're not including as part of asset management system right now is fleet and vehicle. Which fleet and vehicles they have. I believe the reason we choose not to include fleet at the time, because I believe fleet, they have a good monitoring system and good system to help in monitoring and they have a good process to help in monitoring when they need to replace the asset or when they need to replace the vehicle. But overall, counselor, it's a good question. The data we're gonna collect it on each of our asset, whether it's a linear asset pipe, whether it is an HVAC system, whether it is something else, we will have enough information gathered and hope enough on each of the asset to tell us, based on the work order we're doing, on the repeat information we have, and hopefully when we get integrated to ZRP, we'll have enough financial information and data to help us make a evidence-based decision based on information we provide. So in other ways, the operation manager, including the commissioner and SLT, will have enough information, evidence-based information, to decide whether they need to understand why we caused the problem, whether we need to replace it or we need to refurbish it, and so on. So information will be there. However, we won't be there on the financial until we get integrated with the ERP.
That's fantastic. Thank you. I think that kind of clarifies things for me. Because when I think about, for example, us redoing the stairs there in Market Square as stairs instead of an escalator, it was costing so much money for the repairs. So if you're able to kind of get this triggering to you, like all these work orders are going in for this one item, so maybe we don't, maybe we need to change the way that we're doing business with that asset, whatever it is. And then, kind of looking ahead at the grand scheme of things, we're getting into this 5-year capital program where if we get extra money from somewhere, where would it be best for us to invest? So that's fantastic. Thank you. It's I'm excited about this system. I think it's wonderful. Very proactive.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just for staff, I don't see a recommendation on this beyond a receiving for information. Am I right? My microphone's on, yeah. So I'll
I think it's a receive and file. I'm talking to Jody and asked to receive and file.
Makes sense for me. So I'll take a motion to receive and file. Thank you, Your Worship. Seconder, thank you, Councillor Radwin. On the motion, receive and file, all in favor signify by aye, raising your hand. Contrary minded, carried. Thanks very much, Mr. Amin. I really see, once this is implemented, how it will make things more efficient and long run have us replacing assets before they fail and saving money so that we're not dumping money to keep an asset going when maybe it should be replaced. I think in the grand scheme of things, that's what we're getting at here. So thank you for that. If you could stop sharing your screen, and we'll move on to item 6.2, which is the Housing Accelerator Funding 2024 budget amendment. And Ms. Poffenroth, I think you were here to take us through the Housing Accelerator Fund budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm actually handing it over to Carrie Smith. Carrie is the Housing Accelerator Fund Program Project Manager, and Carrie is going to walk you through this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner, and good afternoon, Chair and members of Finance Committee. As you know, the city entered into an agreement on January 2nd, 2024 with the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation for funding under the Housing Accelerator Fund, and will be eligible to receive funding in the amount of just over $9 million across 4 years. The budget has been confirmed for years 1 through 3. However, the 4th year budget is contingent on the city achieving the agreed to housing supply growth target, which is 1,124 new permitted units by the end of 2026. The city has received the first payment in January for $2,295,661.70. And staff have prepared a budget for 2024 in the amount of $3,305,582. And we're seeking Finance Committee approval of this budget as the funding was not finalized at the time the 2024 operating budget was approved. And so we're bringing it forward now to have that incorporated. The budget does take into account the first 3 years of the HAF funding for 2024 through to 2026 and has been weighted to align with the awarding of grants and incentives, which will be provided through this program. And a detailed 4-year budget has been prepared, which is part of your package for the 2025, 2026, and 2027 budget years. The HAF budget will be incorporated as part of the city's annual operating budget, so we won't have to come back and do this every year. And of course, the expenses that are incurred through this budget will be offset by the corresponding revenue that we do receive from CMHC for this. So with that, we're looking for your approval to amend the 2024 budget to incorporate the HAF funding, pending any questions you might have related to what was submitted.
Thanks very much. First questions from committee with regards to the HAF budget and how it fits in with our overall budget. Seeing none, I'll take a motion to approve the 2024 budget recommendation for the Housing Accelerator Fund. Your Worship, seconded by, we'll give it to Councillor Norton. And on the motion, all in favor signify by saying aye, raising your hand. Contrary minded, carried. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
That was item 6.2. Item 6.3 from St. John Transit, the electric bus purchase, and we have Kevin Lockery on the line to take us through the electric bus purchase. Mr. Lockery, please.
Good afternoon, Chairperson and members of the committee. I'm here today to seek an adjustment to the 2023 and 2024 capital budgets to enable the residual lease buyout of our 6 20-foot Tarzan electric buses from Demera Leasing Corporation Canada at a total value of $1.662111.24. In March of 2022, the Finance Committee directed Transit and staff to submit an application into the Zero Emission Transit Fund. We submitted that application to a total value of $22,580,000 to be distributed over the completion of many elements of the project over multiple years. The structure of the funding application was 50 cent dollars. So the city's share of that application was $11,290,000, with the federal funding coming in at $11,290,000 as well. Part of that application was the purchase of 24 zero-emission buses and a pavilion fast charging station on our transit route. In 2023, as part of the St. John Transforming Transit project, we secured 6 Carzan buses. We decided to lease them at that point in time, just based on having put in the application interest rates and the availability of the buses at that point in time. However, climate's changed a little bit as of late. The initial leases on those buses were 12 months with a 6-month extension. We're now in the 5th month of our 6-month extension, still waiting for a response on our ZTIF application. We submitted that application back in June of 2023, and we had correspondence with the ZTIF fund in July of 2023. To date, we're not aware of any municipalities in Canada that have received the second application side of funding from ZTIF. And as you may be aware, there's current public transit fund being developed by the federal government, so we're not exactly sure where we're going to be with that funding application. With that being said, the capital budgets in 2023 and 2024 were structured to support the ZTIF application that we put in. And in 2023, there was $878,880 allocated in that budget for the purchase of buses. And in 2024, there was $1,050,000 allocated for bus purchase as well within that application. Where we're coming to the end of the lease, and without any resolve from the ZTIF application, we're looking for finance approval or finance committee to approve the adjustment of that capital budget in the award of that $1.662 million to allow us to buy out the residual value of the buses currently. And if in the future the ZTIF application succeeds, we will have to go back to council for to consider approval of the city's share for the 2025 capital budget. That's kind of where we're at.
Thanks, Mr. Lockery. Comments or questions from committee? Okay. Mr. Lockery, just a quick clarifying question. So this is a change of detail because we're waiting for the funding from the feds. But this is still all within the transit envelopes, yes?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Thanks very much for that. So I'll take a motion on the recommendation. Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Radwin. On the motion, all in favor signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Contrary minded, carried. Thanks, Mr. Lockery. Go get our buses.
Thank you.
Item number 6 on the 6.4 on the open agenda is the 2023 unaudited general and utility fund year-end results. And for that, we go to Craig Levine. Mr. Levine.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Sure, my screen pops up. Can you see my presentation?
We can, yeah.
Okay. Purpose of this afternoon's presentation is to provide the Finance Committee with an overview of the 2023 unaudited year-end results. The city's annual audit is near completion, which includes the results of various ABCs that will be consolidated into the city's financial system or financials. Staff and auditors are working towards having the audited consolidated financial statements to the Finance Committee in June. Here's a snapshot of the unaudited results for the 2023 year end, showing the city with just over a $2.7 million surplus for 2023. As the committee is aware, there is a council resolution that directs any surplus to be directed into the Catalytic Recreation Reserve when we bring this into the next operating budget, 2025. Overall revenues came in at just over $6 million higher than budgeted. you can see from the slide that a large portion of the revenues are one-time revenues and not reoccurring. This is important to note as the overall surplus of the general fund is coming from one-time revenues and not from less expenses, meaning the city did not achieve the surplus from reducing its expenses, which would have resulted in less service delivery. This slide hides some of the unfavorable variances over a few of the revenue lines. These were all brought forward or identified in the year-end projections that we brought forward to the Finance Committee back in November. Here's the expenditure by service area, resulting in an unfavorable variance of just over $3.2 million. And I will quickly touch base on each of the service areas variances. Growth and community service had a small variance of just over $29,000. The two major variances are a result of the $1.1 million unbudgeted grant for RHI, which is offset by a grant that came in as revenue to cover this expenditure, as well as there were no expenditures incurred for the community reserve, which was carried into 2024. Public Works will have an unfavorable variance of just over $926,000. Again, the majority of the variance is related to the St. John Transit subsidy. There was also an additional $400,000 approved for an engineering study, along with some of the positive variance that I've identified on the slide. Public Safety Services anticipates a surplus of just over $1.25 million for 2023. And when I break that into the two major areas, St. John Fire and EMO makes up about $418,000 of this overall surplus, $785,000 coming from salaries and benefits. Goods and services is over budget by several line items, mostly due to inflationary pressures. St. John Police Force and PSCC has a combined surplus of just over $815,000, and that's largely due to wages and benefits that was offset by some of the overages listed below in goods and services budget lines. Utilities and infrastructure ended up with a surplus of just over $159,000. And again, the results of our combination of wages and benefits with minor positive variances over across their service areas. Strategic Services had a surplus of just over $602,000. Goods and services variances were across multiple areas, such as our assessment charges, corporate planning, and insurance. Corporate services had an unfavorable variance of just over $570,000. And the largest driver of the variance is related to several projects that were undertaken in 2023 that included also industrial parks, St. John Energy, as well as unplanned expenditures in our HR department, which related to the 2023 labor relation issues we had. Other charges, the unfavorable variance and other charges, it relates to the capital that was transferred to our reserves, which was just over $4.1 million over budget. And again, we listed below the breakdown in the slide. Now for St. John Water, which will end up with a small surplus of just over $447,000 for 2023. Revenues will have a positive variance of just over $2.1 million, and that's a result of better than expected meter revenue, industrial revenue, as well as interest revenues due to the higher interest rates that we earned in 2023. Overall, the utility has a small positive variance in its wages and benefits. The largest driver in the expenditures is the transfer to capital reserves for Lancaster Lagoon, as well as future capital works. So in conclusion, the general and the utility fund both have unanticipated one-time revenues. Interest resulted in a large positive variance for both funds. Building permits continue to exceed budget projections, and meter revenue is a very positive note as that revenue is finally recovered. It's also important to note that the surpluses from the various streams are often one-time, is not reoccurring, and in the general is the reason for the surplus of both the general and the utility fund. And with that, as I have referred to earlier, these were just the resolutions regarding the surplus to be brought into the 2025 general operating budget. And with that, I recommend that the Finance Committee receive and file this presentation and direct any questions to staff. And I'll stop sharing my screen.
Thank you, Mr. Levine. all in all, some good news. Questions from committee? Gosh, if it was bad news, you'd have questions. All right. I can't let the good news go by with just an overall comment. As much as interest revenue has played a significant part in all of it, going through this very high level presentation, all the service areas were kind of in the ballpark of their budget at the end of the day. Some a little bit better, some just a smidge worse. But just, I guess, thank you goes out to our service areas for monitoring things and keeping us on an even keel. Because at the end of the day, you know, if it's proven out that 2.7 million is our surplus 2 years down the road, because we have a policy of putting $3 million away every year for our comprehensive recreational project. In 2025, most of that will already be covered by this surplus. So some very good overall news. And if there's no questions or comments, I'll take a motion that we receive and file the presentation. Thank you, Your Worship. Seconded by Councillor Radwin. On the question, all in favor signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Contrary minded? Carried. That brings us to the April 2024 year-to-date financial results, early days. Mr. Levine, is that yours as well?
Yes, Mr. Chair. So through you, Mr. Chair, and the members of the committee, pleased to present just a high-level overview of our 2024 year-to-date results for both the general and the utility fund. Okay, so the purpose of this presentation is to provide the Finance Committee with April year-to-date financial results for the general and utility fund. I will also provide an update on the service enhancement that were approved as part of the 2024 operating budget, and that will be the large focus of this presentation. So as you can see, year-to-date for the general fund, we're showing about just a little over an $8.9 million surplus. $1.8 million higher in revenue and $7.1 million in expenditures. Really, the largest driver of this is just, you know, in general, how some of the areas budget. You know, we are working towards, tightening that up, but a lot of the service areas do budget over a 12-month straight line, and, that will skew the results. But for reference, I do want to highlight that, April 2023, same time period, our results were about $6.3 million surplus. So this is aligned to how we budget year over year. So it's not a surprise by any means. So year-to-date revenue, 1.8 better than budget. I don't consider this timing at this point. Both building permit, as we talked about in the 2023 results, building permits and interest revenue are coming in higher than we did expect when we set the budget for 24. So hopefully, if this trend continues for the balance of the year, that we will continue to have positive results in the year end for these two revenue lines. So here, this is the quick breakdown between wages and benefits and our goods and services. So growth in community services, a $953,000 year-to-date positive variance. I've listed some of the variance reasons below, but one to focus on the service enhancements really for 24. So under this area, recreation user fee review is targeted for completion by June 2024. As the committee is aware, we have a bylaw enforcement pilot program underway. I can say that all positions are filled and the pilot is well underway. Oh, apologize. Community coordination support, RFP is to be issued this month, as well as $50,000 contribution to the Sophia Recovery Center, where these funds have been dispersed and the project is underway. Public Works and Transportation Services, $2.67 million year-to-date variance. The majority is related to timing, as I spoke about earlier, as well as, at this point in the year, the service area did provide a year projection, and they're anticipated to have a small positive year-end variance, but I mean, it is very early in the year. From a service enhancement update, so we had new casuals and reallocation of existing staff to enhance maintenance of Rockville Park, Harbor Passage, Reversing Falls, and other parks. Staffing is in place as of May. There was to be increased curbside and sightline mowing. Staff are in place as of May, and equipment is on order. We looked at enhancing street sweeping for uptown areas and bike lanes. So an additional street sweeper was purchased in April. An additional operator is in place. Enhanced mowing in unsightly areas and dense neighborhoods and heavily traveled arterials. Additional equipment is purchased, rented, and staff is in place as of May. As well as $75,000 in funding support safety initiatives identified as by the traffic engineers. So we have 5 streets with calming measures such as speed cushions, as well as signal crosswalks on Chesley and the east side Reverse Falls Bridge. St. John Fire and EMO have a year-to-date variance of $571,000. And again, it's really just split between the salaries being under budget and goods and services. St. John Police Force and the public PSCC have a $1.53 million year-to-date variance, fairly split evenly between wages and benefits and goods and services. From a service enhancements, the implementation of the CAD system and records management system is well underway. Utility and infrastructure has a small variance of just over $216,000. Included in the 2024 budget was a new position to help manage and move forward the backlog of capital and maintenance projects and develop the 5-year capital plan. This position has been posted twice and has just closed for the second time. Strategic Services has a surplus of $345,000 year to date. The service enhancement that was included in our budget was $16,000 to improve the city's website, and work is expected to get underway in the fall on this initiative. Corporate Services has a positive variance of $236,000. There were several service enhancements included in the 2024 budget for corporate services, including building communication capacity with an FTE from the mayor's office. This position has been filled. Industrial Parks dedicating a management position. This position has been posted. In our legal department, a dedicated contract management position. Again, this position has been posted. Council's discretionary fund. This fund has been established and now is being utilized, as well as an additional FTE, consultants and council to support human resource 10-year strategic plan and refresh health and safety management system. All positions have been filled and work is well underway. Other charges the variance really relates to special pension expenses and just the timing of that. So from a utility fund or St. John Water, we have a surplus of $2.81 million year to date. And just as a reference, April 2023, the results were $1.74 million. So again, the majority is timing and nothing for us to be surprised about. Year-to-date revenues are about $539,000 better than budget. And here's just a breakdown, like the general fund. If if interest rates remain high, there will be a positive variance hopefully for the end of 2024 as well. Expenses just over $2.17 million year to date. And again, this slide is just a breakdown between salaries and our goods and services. So from a service enhancement, this utility had a safety manager as part of its 2024 budget. And I'm pleased to say that that position has been filled and orientation is well underway. So in conclusion, the first 4 months have some positive stories. Building permits are exceeding budget year to date. Optimistic this continues to deal with, continues to grow and deal with our housing shortages. Interest revenue will continue to exceed budget if rates remain high throughout the balance of the year. I'm also pleased to say year to date, there have been no major unexpected expenditure. So we are effectively managing our expenditures. And, most of the funding that we approved as part of the 2024 operating budgets have been utilized and the plans are progressing. So with that, Chair, members of the committee, I just, recommendation is to receive and file this presentation and direct any questions to staff. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Levine. Turning it over to the committee. Questions, comments for staff? Councillor Radwin, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate it. So I have a couple of questions. The position, this might go to maybe Commissioner Poppenroth, I'm not sure. The community coordinator support, is this the development officer for the east side?
That is correct. So there's funding in there to review what's required up for the east side. So it's not necessarily a position, it's only funding for this year. It's so that we can see what's needed, what the gaps are, and how to fill them. But we are likely not going to fill a position this year. We'll likely use a consultant service to do that work for us, to determine what's needed in the future in time for 2025 budget discussion.
Okay, because we're really needing people over there. Feeling such a gap with, you know, the Y did some research showing 90% child poverty rate in the ward there in Glen Falls area. And there's no longer a health nurse over there at the food bank. There's some huge challenges. So, I mean, sooner that we can get people over kind of helping with those community issues, the better, for sure. And I thought that the money that was allocated was actually going to go to a staff member. So I think that I've had confusion with that.
Sorry. Yeah, we had talked about a staff person, and then we decided that it's better just to put the money in and for us to figure out what we need. And, you know, in discussions in the office, we don't think at this time a staff person is the right choice. We really need to assess what the needs are and what the gaps are, so then we can make a plan as to how to fill it. And it could look many different ways. We just don't know yet. It might be a staff person in the future, but
yeah, I'm feeling a little frustrated, I'll be honest. You know, I feel like we're paying for consultants it feels like we're hearing about consultants every meeting, and it's really challenging because there's so many issues that are happening over on the east side. I have another question about staffing. I realized that there was a management position that was posted twice now. I'm just wondering maybe if Commissioner Hossack might be able to answer this for me. Are we being challenged with getting any staff members in any particular areas?
You're on mute. Glad it wasn't me.
Sorry, good afternoon. Hit the camera button, but not the mic. Sorry, Councillor, to address your question, sometimes we see that in very specialized areas where we may have one competition, general competition that has 200 applicants, but then we may have a very specialized role. And of course, sometimes we'll only post it out for a short period of time and see what applications come forward. And then sometimes we need to repost to get a broader group of applicants. So again, it's generally in the very specialized areas and specialized roles within the organization.
Are there any roles right now that you're not able to fill, Stephanie? I'm just, I know media is watching today too, so if we need to get the word out there, it might be a good way to do it.
Well, all of our open positions are on our website currently, so everything is posted at this time. But we are looking for engineers, we're looking for people in pretty much every area of our organization, and we certainly have lots of opportunities for the public.
That's great. Thank you. I just have a quick question, Chair, or comment as well, Chair. It's good to see the sightline mowing enhanced. That's a big one, and I keep seeing the street sweeper out, so that's been very positive to see. It's really it really helps with beautification. And as we're seeing the revenues coming in, metering is up. It's a sign that the economy is bouncing back, as well as the building permits going up as well is a sign that people are investing in the city. So all good news for that in the budget. It was wonderful to see. It's just a good sign that things are on the up.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Norton or Worship, anything you'd like to add?
Nothing here, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. I guess a couple of small bits and pieces. As long as I have been on council, the St. John Police Force has been hiring for the PSCC. I don't know if there's ever been a time that they've had a full complement, and this is really just meant, again, for anybody who's watching, we have openings, and they have openings, along with all the things that were mentioned previously. I can't help, I don't know how many storms we had since January, but it was very few. I know that a lot of our budget surpluses right now are timing, but I can't help but think that, knock wood, that the other end of the year is pretty good. There must have been some of those savings have to be in lack of storms and salt and overtime. Can we confirm that, or did it go elsewhere? Mr. O'Reilly?
Yeah, thanks, Chairperson. Yeah, absolutely. We did see savings, rented equipment, amount of overtime, related costs as well. And I believe some of that's reflected within the presentation that Mr. Levine gave. So on that particular line, absolutely. And even on our parking side as well, like a parking team clears a lot of the city parking lots, and we've seen a significant savings on contractor resources in that area too. So certainly in all those related areas to snow clearing, we have seen savings with the light winter we had. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. And just while I have you on the screen before you run away, you and I had a bit of a side conversation in the last couple of weeks, and I'm guessing it would apply here, but one of the line items we don't see in the day-to-day is the wear and tear on our equipment. With the changeover of our pickup of recyclables, you and I spoke about how that is so much easier on our equipment. But when we have a stretch of time like we had with snow clearing, not only is it saving from overtime and expensive salt, but our equipment isn't getting beat up as well. So that's actually one of those long-term kind of hidden savings as well, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. But the truth is, even though we're not using those trucks for snow clearing, our crews are out doing asphalt patching and other work. But absolutely, that snow clearing activity is one of the worst in terms of impact on our equipment. So you're absolutely right. We're going to see some benefits there in terms of the longevity of those vehicles because of that. And yes, you're absolutely right about the recycling. We basically took those vehicles and doubled them up to collect recycling at night. And so that change in May is going to again allow the length of the life cycle of those garbage trucks to be lengthened out to appropriate times, so we don't have to replace them as often.
Thanks. And just before I let Mr. Levine jump back in, I'll leave you with this, Mr. O'Reilly, because you mentioned pothole patching. The normally really critical social media, I've seen actually all sorts of kudos and good things about our potholes and our response from our team. So I'll pass that along, just a thanks. It's being noticed in the public that the crews aren't moving snow, but they are patching potholes and they're getting done quickly and efficiently. So thank you for that.
Yeah. I'll pass it on, but if I could, just on that, you kind of gave me the stuff to be able to talk about it. We're transitioning more and more, including this past winter, over using recycled asphalt instead of the cold mix. So we're saving up some asphalt from the previous summer and using that, which is a bit more environmentally friendly and frankly lasts longer and is less cost to us. So we've actually bought one additional asphalt recyclers last year to be able to do more of that during the winter time. So it's good to see, and I'll pass along to the team about the kudos you're hearing from the public. Thanks.
Yeah, no, just more smart preparation. Good thinking. Mr. Levine, I saw you pop up.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to quickly add, the one item we talked about fleet and stuff, as that is one of the items that we are concerned about this year. As when we set the budget early in 2023 for 24, the price of fleet parts it wasn't it's still going up, and we're seeing that. I'm talking to the folks at Fleet, and they are concerned. It is something we're going to monitor. So, next time we report back to you, but we are still seeing a bit of a significant increase in parts in general. So, just something for us to be mindful. I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, no, fair comment, and just more important that we look after what we've got, so we don't have to do the repairs, and the more we respect it. Thanks, Councillor Radwin. I see your hand.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to, I didn't want, speaking about this pothole subject, I wanted to make mention, I know we've saved some money in snow removal, and I'm really hoping that there's going to be a review of whether or not the overlay program should be back. I think that there's some roads that were on this list for the overlay program, and if we don't have it there, it'll take quite some time for them to get repaired. So I'm hoping, just wanted to throw it out there, I'm hoping that there's going to be some reconsideration for that.
Good question, Councillor. And actually, I don't know if Mr. Yamin is still here, but perhaps someone else on staff. I'm wondering if all of that asset management conversation we had earlier will help us make better decisions on road resurfacing, rebuilding, overlay as well. Does that all tie in? Is there... Mr. O'Reilly, come on back.
Yeah, thanks. And I'll certainly pass that off to Samir for any comments as well. In terms of the asphalt side, we have a program in place where we inspect our asphalt roadways and identify that critical point, right, where we do the asphalt overlay that Councillor Radwan talked about. Because anywhere from 4 to 6 times the cost to put it off and have to completely reconstruct the street. So we've had that program in place now for 10 or 15 years. And absolutely, it's going to dovetail into the broader asset management program the city's looking at. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's catching those roads ahead of time before they go to that reconstruction stage saves us money in the end, and obviously allows those roads to stay in better condition.
Excellent. Thanks for the response. Mr. Fogan, you want to chime in?
I'm just going to add on just to what Tim where he said it does dovetail into the broader asset management conversation, and it's true. It absolutely does. And we're constantly, so we do have an infrastructure deficit in both the general fund and the utility fund, and we don't invest to a level to fully replace all our assets. So we're constantly, when something is due, evaluating as well, do we need the same asset we had before? Is there something else that can do? Rather than just assuming that everything we have needs to carry forward for another generation, is there a better way to do it as well? So it's not always 1 for 1. Sometimes it's 0.75 for 1, and sometimes it's 1.25 for 1. So, but it all comes into the long-term mix with asset management planning.
Thanks very much. Good, robust discussion. Thanks for the information, staff. Yeah, I don't see any other questions or comments from committee, so I'll take a receive and file motion. Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Norton, get you in on the second on the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Raise your hand. Contrary minded, carried. And just before we adjourn, boy, we were efficient today. But some cool stuff for those of you who joined late. We looked at modernizing our asset management system, continuing down that path. You heard some of the discussion at the end. Just approving from the technical side, the great housing accelerator fund that we have, and have wonderful staff working on that just on the budget side. Made sure to purchase the electric buses that we've been using with St. John Transit as we continue to become more green and more efficient on transit, thanks to our transit folks. And then good news on the year-end unaudited results from 2023 and a hopeful start to 2024's financials. So thanks to staff across the organization for the work you do. Certainly our finance staff who support this team and this meeting. And we'll leave it there, and I'll take a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Your Worship. Seconded by Councillor Norton. Thanks again to staff.